Hey guys, I wanted to make a video today about my 3 quick tips for door-to-door sales. Really, they can be used for any sales, especially the first 2, but in particularly the last one especially is very important for door-to-door sales. Now, we'll get to the sales tips in just a minute. A quick background about myself, just so you know where I'm coming from experience. So I mentioned in previous videos that I used to have my own business. So this is what this is. It's just the name of my business. It's just a sales tax form. So it's just the right to do business in Texas. I also mentioned that I ran the eBay store for a little while, and this is just a top-rated seller certificate. And, it's nothing huge. And also that I worked at Comcast. They give you one of these every year. I worked there for just under 2 years, so I only got one, but so there's that. So the main points here are going to be, I would say some of them are kind of cliche, but I don't think on a lot of the videos that are currently on YouTube really explain or express these points. And I know some of you are probably going to be like, you're going to hear some of these and be like, well, duh. But honestly, these are some of the most practical and important core values to really any sales position, like I said, but especially door-to-door sales. So let's get into it. The first one, be genuine and honest. So I know salespeople obviously have a very bad rep. You hear all the time, the shady salesman or the shady car salesman. And I just wanted to clarify something. So in a general sales position, if that's what you're working, you have a bit of an advantage. So even this applies even for call centers. It's a little bit more nuanced there, but it's not quite the same abstraction as door-to-door sales. So what I mean by that is, if you're in a position where you have a physical store or an online website or a dealership like a car dealership or something, then you have a customer that's already has a product in mind. They're looking to buy, they're willing to buy, they have everything ready to go. They just basically need that little push that says this is the one, this is the product that they want, and you're kind of there as the liaison to facilitate them. So whereas door-to-door sales is you're often cold knocking on maybe current, former, or never customers' homes that weren't expecting you that day. Maybe they have something going on, maybe they're getting ready to go out somewhere. You really don't know. And so there's this unknown aspect to door-to-door sales that you don't really get with a lot of the other sales positions, because you already know that this customer is coming in because they want something, versus you're having to go a lot of the times door-to-door cold knocking, which is to basically you plan out a route, you knock on someone's door, ring their doorbell, and they're not expecting you. It's granted, sometimes you'll have meetings set up, oftentimes, but that takes another level to get there. That's something that you usually don't get into until you've been doing the job for a little while. When you get referrals and callbacks, and you build a little bit of rapport with some of the customers. So you have about 15 seconds after that person opens the door and says, "What?" or "What do you want?" to really connect with them and make them not just slam the door in your face, which, absolutely it's going to happen. There's absolutely no way around that. Sometimes you just catch somebody at the absolute worst possible time. Put yourself in their shoes. If you're, just got into a fight, you're getting ready to go out somewhere, like I said, maybe you got into a fight with your spouse or something, and you just don't want to deal with anybody. So it happens. But the few people that might be willing to buy or at least listen to you, they usually have about 15 seconds to really grab their attention. And I found the best way to do that is just be genuine and honest and forthright. If you try to convince them that, be like, oh yeah, I've got a great deal that can really beat whatever blah you're probably going to get the door slammed on your face. You might get them to open up a little bit, but you're probably not going to get as far as you'd like. So the best thing that you could possibly do is just be as open and honest about it as possible. Quickly explain why you're there. Give them, your name, maybe your company if you work for a company, and just be open about what you're doing. How can you help them? Why are you at their door at 9 in the morning? What are you trying to do? They got stuff going on. That people have lives. So that's just something that you really have to work on, and the more you do it, the better you'll get. But the last thing that you ever want to do is, and this goes on multiple levels. So when you're at the door, being genuine and honest and open is the first part. When you've already made the connection, it's still very important to be genuine and honest all the way through, because you might be able to, you've seen the one or two people that might pull the wool over, or maybe it's happened to you before, where some shady salesman pulls the wool over your eyes, and they got you, and you lost out. But people aren't stupid. Clearly, if it's happened to you, very shortly afterwards, hey, I've just been had. So it's very important, and especially if you're going to be in a sales position long term. Even if you don't know, even if you don't think you're going to be doing it long term, it's just a good rule of thumb, because you don't know what you're going to be doing after that, and you don't know what kind of business relations that you might be forming before, during, and after. So it's just important to be genuine and honest the entire way through. Because think about it. Maybe you got a sale, maybe you got a whole bunch of money out of that sale. But maybe you did something that was either maybe against company policy, or, something that wasn't quite on the straight and narrow. And now, not only is that person probably going to find out, they could cancel or back out on your sale. They're going to, if you're not knocking door to door, neighbors talk to people. So, the word's going to spread very fast, and you basically just burned yourself in that whole neighborhood. You don't know who else is friends with who. You don't know what position this person is or who they're talking to. Not only does it give a bad rep to you as a sales rep and salespeople in general, but also the company you're working for. And it's just a really bad way to start out. So later on, as you build up your reputation, that's going to go a long way into getting you referrals and making more money. But if you start out that way, doing things that aren't quite genuine or honest, then you're probably going to burn yourself in a very short amount of time. So that would be the first rule to, really any sales, but door-to-door sales especially. Number 2 is, it's also a little cliche, but you have to really believe in whatever product or service that you're providing. That you have to believe that it can truly help and bring some type of added value to whoever your customer or end user might be. So I think it's very important, for you to use your own product or service. If you're working for a company, make sure you use, a lot of companies will offer you essentially free or severely discounted products or services. And there's 2 reasons for that. First, is a great benefit. Who doesn't, if you're already paying for something, like for me, I worked at Comcast. If you're already paying for cable and internet from them, why not get it cheaper or next to free? So, and second is, not only does it give you another level of understanding because you're actually using it firsthand, but it also, you get to see for yourself what kind of added value that particular product or service really provides. And so if you're, providing something that maybe you haven't used before, or maybe even more so if you've used their competitor before working at this job. That gives you an even deeper understanding than someone who's just had that product or service, already for their whole life, because then you get to really compare the two. And if you yourself took the job, let's be honest, everybody just wants to make money. You got to support your family, you got to pay your bills. I get it. But if you don't really feel deep down that you're able to bring something to whoever you're presenting this product or service to, if you don't feel that you're really able to give them some type of added value, or just make their life a little bit easier. It's not always about saving money. A lot of the times with Comcast, there's a lot of times that I was drastically saving somebody money, but that wasn't the case all the time. And that doesn't mean that just because you can't save somebody some money doesn't mean that you still can't bring them some type of added value. There was tons of times that there was plenty of people that their bills were actually going up, but I was bringing them something that their current provider didn't already have, whether it was a much faster internet, a home security, or tons and tons of other features and benefits that their current provider just didn't offer. And so you really have to go deeper into what you're doing, because if at the end of the day, if you yourself don't believe what you're selling can really be an added benefit to whoever you're selling it to, that's going to come off, and they're probably not going to, you're probably getting the door slammed in your face. So that would be number 2. And the final one, number 3, is, and this one is probably the hardest one for some people to hear, and it pertains to, this one also pertains to all sales experience, all sales positions, but especially door-to-door sales. Now, like I said, as I showed you, I ran my own business. I did that for a couple of years, and even after my physical location was no longer there, I still did eBay, and I still interacted with customers. So even with that experience going into door-to-door, I found myself struggling in the beginning. I read tons of books, watched tons of YouTube. We had different sessions where they kind of worked on some type of simulation of you knocking on the door and stuff. All of that aside, and don't get me wrong, it's really important to play things out in your mind and practice and get as much knowledge and information as you can. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many videos you watch, how many books you read, and how many times you pretend and act to do some type of simulation. At the end of the day, there's no substitute for the real thing. And it's really difficult at first. And I know, the first time that I had to knock on a door, when we were in training, that was one of the first things that they had us do within, it was probably like 2 weeks in, was knock on our first door. And it was terrifying. So if you don't have any previous experience in door-to-door, it doesn't matter what type of sales position that you're coming from, whether it's car dealership or some type of, a lot of years in some type of sales associate position, whatever. Insurance, there's a ton of different things out there. Cold knocking door-to-door is an entirely different animal. And it is extremely nerve-wracking and extremely difficult the first few times. It took a while to get to the point where I just felt comfortable knocking on a door. And unfortunately, this is part of the reason why I've been doing these videos, is a lot of the videos I've seen either have someone who's selling a product or service, and they have great videos. They do a really great job of presenting themselves, what they're selling, how they can help, but they have a certain dynamic and personality that if you don't specifically have that same type of personality, you cannot, trust me, I've tried everything. I've watched other people try this. you have to find your own method. And it's just, there's just no other way to be able to do that without just going out there and knocking on some doors. And I mean, just to help yourself, make sure you plan out your route, make sure you have all the proper licenses. I mean, if you're working for a large company, they'll probably take care of all of that for you. But just remove as many obstacles that could possibly impede you from being able to focus on the sale. Each door. Go to each door, refresh, and I'm sure if you're, like I said, if you're working for somebody, or if you're taking any classes on this, they'll tell you just pretend like the next door is a completely new door and go out with it. And I know that's really hard to do sometimes, especially after the last guy just yelled at you and tell you, what are you doing knocking on my door? It's 9 a.m. in the morning, what are you doing knocking on my door? But you really just have to go at the next door completely refreshed. Whatever that takes, whether it takes, you gotta take a break, go back to your car, get a drink, just whatever it takes for you to be able to go to the next door refreshed and calm and try again. Because there's absolutely, like I said, there's no substitute for just trying. And eventually, the more you do it, the more you practice. I mean, everybody's different. Don't get discouraged if you see someone who's been there for only 2 weeks and some people just have a real good niche for it. It might take you a few months, might take you several months. But all you have to do is just keep staying persistent, keep trying, don't get discouraged, and follow the 3 tips that I mentioned in this video, and you'll do good. Eventually, you'll get to that point where you're consistently making sales and you feel good about them. Not just making a sale, because there's some people that will do less than ethical means to make sales. I promise you, avoid that. It will bite you later. Just trust me on that. So make sure that you're following all of these tips and just keep at it, and I promise you will absolutely succeed. And if you've made it this far and you haven't already done so, smash that like button. Also, if you made it this far and you haven't already, please subscribe and smash that notification bell so you can be notified when I upload future videos. And if you can, in the comment section down below, please let me know if there's any sales position or job that you just got.